Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I white shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 2, Episode 4 of Hulu's Only Murders in the Building, entitled Here's Looking at You. I always try to practice the title so I can remember it, and then I never do. But this is kind of a strange episode to me, and I liked it, don't get me wrong, but this was a little interesting because I'm unclear as of now why they brought Lucy, Charles's daughter, into the show slash episode really to only reveal information to us, the viewer. They did the little thing with their relationship and how she thinks Charles was her favorite father and all this kind of stuff, the song, and, showing the rapport that they had, showing how both of them actually have dealt with not being able to talk to each other for a long time. And all that is meaningful. It helps to make these characters more three-dimensional. That's fine. But at the end of the day, the purpose of this show, well, I'm not going to say the purpose of the show, but the main aspect of this show, besides just being funny, is solving the mystery. And they bring in Lucy in. I'm thinking they got to bring in Lucy for something important, which they did, but it's only useful information to us. It's not useful information to Charles, Oliver, and Mabel. So I'm going to get to that in a moment, but I want to talk about a couple of the other things that we learned, as I do every week, talking about the things that we learned in this episode. So another interesting tidbit, or not a tidbit, but another interesting event that took place in this episode was the return of Teddy and Theo Demas. There's a great elevator scene where Oliver runs into Teddy in the elevator, and you see him stop the elevator with the ankle bracelet that kind of shows that he's basically on parole or bail or whatever. And there's a whole awkward conversation in the elevator that ends with Teddy, with him saying, like, I think Oliver says something like, see you around, or, something to that effect. And Teddy's like, oh, you're going to see a lot of me because I'm going to fuck you. And he goes this whole thing about all these different ways he's going to fuck Oliver. And he ends with saying, what was it? He's gonna fuck Oliver till he chokes with a big heaping bowl of fuck. That's not quite. I thought he was gonna say a big heaping bowl of dicks, but like I don't know. I'm weird like that. But I wonder what Teddy and Theo were fighting about. They seem to have a difference of opinion on how they're handling their respective cases. There was something about Theo having a different lawyer now, so I guess there's a lack of trust there with Teddy and whoever his lawyer is. But I'm wondering what they're arguing about. But more importantly, I like the fact that Oliver saw it, and I liked how they used that to give Oliver's character motivation to be good to his son. Seeing, Teddy crying over Theo essentially saying, I'm not fucking with you no more. Oliver seeing that makes him go help his son with his play, when at the beginning of the episode, he kind of brushed him off. And I thought that was a cool lesson for Oliver. Like, I like these little moments where we get to see them, it's not all fun and games, and they learn something along the way. And we get that with Oliver in this episode. And I thought that was a nice way of teaching him that lesson. Because I'm watching it at the beginning, I'm like, he's literally asking you for help. Like, why would you just like, no, I don't have time for that. I have to deal with this case. Like, you're not a cop. This case is like your free time, like extracurricular shit for you. This is not something you're obligated to do that you can't take any time off from. This is just something you're doing in your spare time. Granted, it's to clear his name, but still, it's not something that it's mandatory that he does it at that time. So for him to brush off his kid like that was kind of shitty. I'm like, why is Oliver being such a dick? Like, but I like the fact that he used that scene with Teddy and Theo to motivate himself to go meet with his kid. So something else we learned that I found interesting, and well, it's not necessarily something we learned, but it's something that happened that's kind of making me wonder. Howard shows up at everyone's apartment. That's his name, right? The guy with the glasses. He says that Nina hit him on the night that Bunny died, and he's totally throwing Nina under the bus. And I don't think this is the first time that he said something. This is definitely not the first time he said something disparaging about Nina. And of course, that's going to make us, the viewer, look like, okay, he wants to point the finger at Nina, so he must be wanting to point it away from himself, right? That's the vibe I'm getting. So I'm wondering if he's a suspect, or if this is just like another elaborate fake out. Like, we're meant to think like, okay, oh, maybe Howard's in it. He really wants to throw Nina under the bus. But I'm gonna talk about Howard. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna throw something out there that, in concert with Howard trying to send eyes toward Nina, which in my mind is sending them away from himself. In addition to that, I have something else I want to talk about with him as well. So, the one thing that Lucy was brought in for was to teach us about the passages within the walls. We already knew about them. We knew about the elevator. We knew that the architect of the building is the only person who knows about these passages. And we also know that they're not on any standard building blueprints. So whoever the killer is must be in close, I don't want to say proximity because that sounds too literal, like in physical proximity, but they must have some sort of relationship with whoever designed the Arconia. And we know that because Lucy was in there filming this video after she showed up there on the night that Bunny was killed. And she's hiding from Charles, essentially. She climbs into the walls and she records this video. And while she's in there, she hears, like, presumably Bunny scream. And then the killer comes into the passages, presumably exiting out of the building via maybe that secret elevator, or maybe going through the passages to plant something in someone else's apartment, go back to their own apartment so they could have an alibi. We'll see. But we learn about these passages in the walls, and this person has also been using these passages to plant evidence in our group's apartments. So we've seen, obviously, there was the painting first. That was in Charles' apartment, right? And then now today we have the murder weapon, the knife, which was I think that was in Charles' apartment as well, which again is another clue. Whoever this is must have it out for Charles. And it's apparently Oliver's knife. Furthermore, and this is what I think is important, when the killer is in the passages and Lucy is hiding from him, and I'm writing, that felt like a guy, right? Like, pause. That was a guy, right? Like, I don't think that was a woman. We hear this person sneeze. And I think that's going to be a big clue. At some point, we're going to hear some character sneeze. And that's the weird thing, is that whenever we hear the sneeze, and we might already, maybe I'm just not thinking of it. Maybe there's already somebody who's known to have allergies that I'm not thinking of. But whenever that happens, only we are going to make that connection. Charles and Oliver and Mabel aren't going to make that connection because they didn't hear it. So unless they keep Lucy involved in the rest of this season, which it doesn't appear like they're doing because she was sent away, how are they going to make that connection? Because I feel like that sneeze was important. And then it makes me wonder, is Howard possibly allergic? Like, if I hear Howard sneeze, I'm going to be like, all right, it's Howard. We got him throwing attention away from himself. Then we have the allergies that connect with that. So keeping our eyes out for anybody with allergies going forward. I tend to not remember the stuff that I talk about in these videos from week to week. So who knows, in episode 5, I'm going to remember to look for allergies. But I feel like if I hear somebody sneeze, I'm going to do that like that DiCaprio meme where I'm like pointing and shit. I feel like that's going to be me. So lastly, we end the episode with Charles going to visit Jane he says he needs her help. I don't know where that's going. I don't know what assistance she can provide, but that's going to be interesting to find out as well. So a couple more things before I wrap up. This video is pretty short, but this episode, like I said, I feel like we didn't learn too much in this episode. So the big things, the allergies for whoever that was in the passages, the fact that the passages exist and how they work, who they're known to, and then the little bit with Nina and Howard. And we also see that, I failed to mention this, that Nina, as she starts to go into labor, she gets pretty pissed off about Bunny not being there for the birth, and says that she, if they find a killer, she wants some time to fuck him up or something to that effect. So a couple of things real quick before I wrap up. When Charles said that he makes $200,000 a year in residuals from that song, it made immediately my mind went to, that's why Lucy's here. Like, I did the Leonardo DiCaprio beat. That's why she's here. I was certain that was it, but it turned out to be something more wholesome, and I'm just a fucking cynic piece of shit. Well, I'm not gonna say that. Lucy is not completely. I guess she is off the board as a victim. Well, not as a victim, as a suspect. But then again, she was there on the night that this happened, so who knows? And I also liked how Charles didn't understand anything she was saying, and he coerces Mabel into talking with her just to try to make heads or tails out of why she's here or what she's talking about. Mabel doesn't understand what she's saying either, and frankly, neither did I. Like, I caught little bits here and there, but for the most part, I'm sitting there like, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. And granted, they made her talk fast to add to that, but I still thought that was funny. I'm like, I don't even know what she's talking about, and I don't know. I'm fairly cool. I don't think anybody who's cool has ever said I'm cool. No, I'm lame as fuck. So that's all I got for this episode. So again, like I said, solid episode. We learned plenty, got some good laughs. But yeah, I feel like this one was a little weird just because I'm wondering how Lucy's involvement is going to help Charles, Oliver, and Mabel. Like, it gave us a little bit, but I'm wondering how that's going to help them. So I guess we'll see you next week, and I will see you guys next week for episode 5. And until then, peace.